right now that are hard to make because you won't get them for a year. So designing things that are manufacturable is going to become more important.
I think that's also a very good platform for established companies or for newcomers and startups that have some innovation to showcase and to get the word out to the general public or to the industry. Normally they would not be so obviously known or discovered. So with this award, they really get into the spotlight and get the awareness they deserve. And that also, I think, really triggers innovation in general in the bike industry.
各位来宾，我们下午的活动将在2点钟的时候正式开始。
Ladies and gentlemen, our event this afternoon will begin at 2 o'clock. You are welcome to talk to each other before the forum officially begins this afternoon. Here on site, we are also exhibiting some of the products that have won the D&I Award of the 2021 Taipei Cycle Show. This is the BSV Voltani H3 from Darfan Company. We are also showing you innovative new products chosen by TTS, including the Soul F85 treadmill from Daeco and 5mm super stretchy semi-dry full suit by Aeropack Sports. This year, Taipei Cycle and TTS join hands and launch an online exhibition. This online exhibition officially opened yesterday and will run until the 31st of March this year. In this year's online exhibition, we have created a platform for online community engagement and provide immersive experiences for global buyers. In addition, we provide functions such as 360-degree view of products and matchmaking meeting reservation, so that no matter where you are in the world, you can continue to explore new business opportunities in our online exhibition. This afternoon's session will be concluded with a Q&A session. We are going to use Slido to take questions for this Q&A session. You are welcome to scan the QR code on the screen to access the Slido page and raise your question. Information related to today's conference and forum will be uploaded to a Line group. You are welcome to join this Line group by scanning the QR code on the screen. If you need interpreting receiving devices, please bring a photo ID of yours to the registration desk. During the conference, please also switch your mobile phone to silent mode. Thank you.
Innovation, especially in new markets, as we see that electrification of bicycles is just in the start. And the bicycle adherence already has changed a lot, and the acceptance of the people about different bicycle shapes is already ongoing. That means bicycles more look like small motorcycles. They are getting more massive, they show much more surface than before. People accept it. And this is actually just a start for a totally new transportation world.
The most refreshing product that I saw was actually the most unusual and probably the weirdest idea. You couldn't help but smile when you looked at it. It was just fresh. What we want to see is that guy's or girl's second product, because they're a creative thinker.
advanced thinking and innovation. This is one of the key that I look for in the D&I awards. As products get entered, the first and foremost is they should be pushing the boundaries of the industry.
透过简单、聪明的方式去解决困难的问题，对，这个是我看中的一部分。另一部分的话是在产品最后成品的细节处理上，怎么去做一个很好的收尾，这也是在这个产品本身吸不吸引人的另一个重点。
科技业也是台湾很重要的一个产业，自行车也是。这两个台湾重要的产业如何能够携手合作？怎么样把我们在科技产业方面关于电脑相关的一些设备啊，怎么样运用在这个脚踏车的产业上？这对台湾来讲都是一个加分的效果，就是1+1应该可以大于2。
One of the common features we see this year is that we have a system design, system thinking. Whereas before it's more of a product, this year we see a lot of the entries start thinking about a system, how they work with each other. So this is a good thing for the industry.
I think what COVID-19 is going to affect is everyone's understanding of how hard it is to make things. So I think it will change the focus on manufacturability, because you can't design things right now that are hard to make because you won't get them for a year. So designing things that are manufacturable is going to become more important.
I think that's also a very good platform for established companies or for newcomers and startups that have some innovation to showcase and to get the word out to the general public or to the industry. Normally they would not be so obviously known or discovered. So with this award, they really get into the spotlight and get the awareness they deserve. And that also, I think, really triggers innovation in general in the bike industry.
各位来宾，我们今天下午的论坛即将在
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our forum this afternoon will begin at 2 o'clock. This afternoon session will be concluded with a Q&A session. We are going to take these questions on Slido. You can scan the QR code on the screen right now to access the Slido page to raise your question. Our moderator will integrate these questions. Information related to today's forum will be uploaded to the Line group. You can scan the QR code to join the Line group. Please also switch your phone to silent mode during the forum. Thank you.
各位现场的贵宾以及在线上收看直播的观众朋友，大家午安。
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on-site and online, welcome back to the afternoon session of today's forum, Beyond Exercise 2021 Smart Sporting and Smart Cycling Summit, co-organized by TITRA and the Bureau of Foreign Trade, Taiwan. I'm your MC today, Angela. This morning, we have discussed the industrial trend of smart sports industry. This afternoon, we will focus on the topic of smart cycling to look at future trends, opportunities for breakthroughs, new business models to usher in a new wave of transformation in this industry. Now we are ready to begin the first session of this afternoon, New Perspectives Identifying Global Consumer Trends. For this session, we have Mr. Robert Margevicius, the Executive Vice President of Specialized Bicycles Components. He is also the Vice Chairman of BPSA, Bicycle Product Suppliers Association.
Margevicius， 请大家以热烈的掌声欢迎我们的讲者。
Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow, amazing, amazing. First of all, thank everyone. I'd like to thank actually the Tetra team for this invitation. You know, I've been coming here to the Taipei show for, I don't know, for probably 20 or 30 years. And this is my first time that I have the opportunity to speak. So that I feel really good about. So I want to thank all of you actually for the opportunity to be here and to share with you some insights and some guidance on the bike industry. And this morning, there was a lot of discussion on technology and what was happening in the world of exercise and health and fitness. And I just want to share with you just my comments about this morning. And even all of you here, I'm really impressed at the energy at the youth, and that Taiwan, there's a new generation of people that are coming in. And that new generation is really bringing great new ideas, insights, and technology and developments to the bike industry. And it's a wonderful experience for someone who's been coming here to Taiwan for so long. So anyway, and I hope today I'm going to provide you some guidance. This afternoon, my talk today is going to talk a lot about what's happened in the bike industry. What's happened? So we've experienced an amazing year of 2020. And so I'm going to talk my way through 2020. I'm going to share with you what happened in the bike industry, where we are today, where we believe that the industry is going, and how we can work together to make this industry stronger. So that's going to be the direction for today. And I'm going to start out by, as everybody knows, we-she, which is every crisis, there's an opportunity. And certainly the bike industry has experienced an amazing crisis, and we're actually looking at the opportunities that are available today. So let me take you to where we started. So the bike industry for more than 25 years, has been stable, particularly in developed markets. So we've seen sales remain at a pretty constant pace over this 25 years with some peaks and valleys, and the peaks have been the results of things like gas crisis or some new innovations. And we've seen valleys in the marketplace due to a variety of different geopolitical issues or other circumstances that have caused the market to decline. So these situations have resulted in pretty much a stable market over this past 25 years. So what happened? So then the pandemic hit, and the pandemic hit in 2020 that resulted in a surge in the bicycle market of 32% in a 1 year period of time. So an amazing change in the bicycle business, and this has impacted all of us. So what happened, right? Okay, it's easy to say, hey, the pandemic hit, Bob. You know, I understand there was a surge of people. Great. So what happened? You know, what we saw happen during this pandemic was we saw changing lifestyles. We saw that people today are spending much more time at home, and whether they're working or whether they're at leisure, they're working and they're staying closer to home. So the boundaries that people traditionally have had, they've shrunk. They've gotten smaller. And so people today are spending the money that they have on recreational activities that are close to home. And they're investing more in themselves and more in the experience that they can enjoy themselves. They're also discovering the joys of cycling. And this, you know, I say to many people, we have worked our lifetime for this moment when people are recognizing and realizing and respecting what cycling brings and the joys of cycling. So people are out craving just relief in what they do and how they experience outdoor life. And they're riding more, they're enjoying the social dimensions of cycling, and it's changing their behavior. So consumers today, before they were spending on things like clothing, travel, they were spending it on products that they found to give maybe social fulfillment. Well, they're now bringing in and they're now spending on things that provide them with experiences, and wonderful experiences that cycling delivers. So what else? So bikes are the new joyride. They were the vehicle that we could use if we wanted to be socially distanced. They were an amazing tool for people to get together, talk to each other, be engaged, and enjoy some of those fun experiences. And so bikes and cycling provided that tool for them. So a really important tool. And lastly, as we all know, we experienced quite a bit of problems, and people identified mass transit as one of the vehicles for communicating the pandemic. So people looked for new ways to get from one place to the other. So bikes became the new way to get from one place to another and to avoid public transportation. So these four things combined came together, and they resulted in a surge in cycling sales. So I want to take you through what happened. Okay, so we saw this amazing surge, and these graphs that we're going to take a look at here will give you an idea what happened. So we started out the year, if you take a look at the total channel, we started out the year with about 8 months worth of inventory or product on hand. 8 months of inventory on hand. And we started out January within the entire channel of about 8 months of inventory. And as the pandemic hit, which was in March and April, suddenly we saw a surge. And that surge happened for a variety of reasons, 4 of which I mentioned, but one of the other critical ones was governments identified bicycles as a critical business, as an essential business. So being an essential business and being a tool now for outside recreating, doing things, and enjoying things with your family, people went and bought bikes. And not only did they go to buy bikes, they went to buy a lot of bikes. And if you take a look at the charts here, so from the total channel standpoint, as I said, we started out with a little over 8 months worth of inventory. And as we moved into the months of April, May, June, and July, inventory levels plunged. And inventory levels dropped to historic levels. And I'll talk about those historic levels in a little bit. But I want to make sure that everybody recognizes that there's channels. And so there were 2 basic channels in the marketplace. So you have the retailers who's selling to the end consumer. So he had inventory. And you have the wholesalers, which is the brands like Specialized or other brands, also had inventory. So the 2 of us had inventory. And when we went into the surge, these 2 channels served together to provide the bikes and the products that people need. And if you take a look at the retail levels, they were close to double in the months of April, May, June, and July. They were double the previous year. So what happened within the industry is those sales gains were served by inventory within the channel. They were served with inventory within the channel. So as we started moving into the later months of the year, into August, September, October, November, December, the inventory levels have been depleted. And now, whatever inventory we're receiving or whatever product we're receiving today is servicing the immediate needs of customers today. So with that as a framework, I'll just take you back to here. So brands, component suppliers, and manufacturers were not and are not prepared for this surge. We were not ready. And fortunately, there was inventory in the channel. So, as I mentioned, the sales in those months, depleted inventory within the channel by close to 50%. 50%. And demand continues to pace at 30% or greater than previous years. So those things are real and they're happening today. And where we're at today, and actually one of the reasons why I'm here in Taiwan, in addition to speaking to all of you and presenting about the bike industry, is to work with some of the component suppliers to try and service the demand and the current needs that are happening in the marketplace. So component suppliers and the assemblers today are struggling to deliver even a 10% gain in the business. So that's a real challenge for all of us in the industry. So basically, everything that we're getting in, it's immediately selling through. So what is happening is, as most of you know, all of the industry is now responding. And basically what we're doing is we're placing orders. And we're placing orders 12 to 24 months in advance. 12 to 24 months in advance, when historically we were placing orders with 60-day lead times, 45-day lead times. So we are in an amazing time where lead times and the demand continues to outstrip the supply. So let me just give you a quick picture of where things are. I mean, this is the current reality. Everybody should probably know this, right? So we're looking at lead times on things like whether it's handlebars or whether it's stems or whether it's tires or chains or derailleurs. We're looking at lead times of 300 plus days on a lot of components. And the key point about all of these is, you know, one bike has about 238 different components. So if one of them has a lead time of 300 days, that means everything has a lead time of 300 days. So that's basically what we're living with today. So the point is, can we handle the growth? Can the bicycle business handle this growth? And you know, as I mentioned, so over the past 10 months, inventories globally at both wholesale and the retail channel have been drained to an unprecedented 1.75 months on hand to satisfy the current demand surge. That's where we are today. And demand continues to pace at 20 to 30% over the previous year's sales, far outstripping supply, far outstripping supply. And we're seeing a lot of factory efficiency here in Taiwan of efficiency gains of 10 to 15%. But the 10 to 15% isn't really helping us much, to be honest with you. And as I said, factory orders today, where we're looking at lead times of 300 to 350 days, so people are placing orders 24 months in advance. So current factory orders are 2 to 3 times previous years, 2 to 3 times. And there's no sign of relief with the component makers, many of which are very reluctant to invest in additional capacity. So I want to take you through a couple of things that are rather interesting, and it will give you a flavor of where we are. So in answer to your question, is the industry prepared for this? No. Definitely the current supply is far less than what the demand is. And I hope you guys can just bear with me just for a minute, and I want to take you through this little matrix that's rather interesting, and it'll give you an idea of where things are. So we'll just start out pretty simply. For those of you who are not into the math and the mathematical side, you can will only be a few minutes, but if you take a look at retail sales, the first line in 2019, So this would be sales, let's say, in the North America and in the European community. So there were about 32 million bikes. And we started the year with an inventory of 16 million. So roughly, call it 6 months supply on hand between the wholesale level and the retail level. And then we received about 32 million bikes. We received them. And so with the retail sales and with the receipts, we were left with 16 million bikes. Everything was good. So then we started 2020. And we started 2020 with 16 million bikes on hand. And as you can see, we received estimates about 32 million, comparable to what the previous year's was. But sales surged to 42 million, an increase of about 32%. An increase of 32%. So what happened? What happened? Ending inventory, what we had on hand at the end of 2020 was decreased by over 62%. 62% decline. So we're starting off 2021 right now. I'm forecasting. I'm not a great forecaster, or I would be rich and I probably wouldn't be here. But I'm forecasting a slower, a lower retail sales level, because I think if you take out the months that sales were double, which is April, May, June, and July, and you just use those as outliers, we're not going to see that same surge in those 4 months as we did in 2020. Highly unlikely. So I'm predicting that we're going to see some less sales, and I'm estimating maybe 9.5% down, maybe. But again, we're going to start out with a beginning inventory of 6 million bikes, and the demand is going to be somewhere in the area of about 38 million. And I'm forecasting that we're going to get more bikes in than we did last year. And I'm forecasting that maybe we're going to get 10% more. Maybe. If we do, we're still in a deficit spot. So the inventory then drops from 6 million to 3 million. And we start out 2022 with only 3.2 million bikes in inventory. And we go through the same cycle. And even with a 10% increase in actual production and receipts, so a 50% increase over the next 5 years, by 2025, we will have 9 million bikes in stock. And I want you to just remind you that we had 16 million when we started 2019. So we're still far behind. We won't be able to catch up. We won't be able to catch up. And as I said, looking at a pace for production and for delivery of 10% over the next 5 years will get us perhaps to the point where we want to be at in 5 years. So for those of you who you can open your ears back up and we'll get rid of the math, but I'll just show you one other thing to say, where are we today? Okay, so what, for all of the component suppliers and everybody that's in the room that's talking about what's happening in the bike business, okay, so the reality check is wholesale orders, as all of you guys know, who are seeing double, triple the amount of orders. So basically what everybody's trying to do is they're trying to refill inventory, and they're trying to match the demand that's out there. So what we're seeing is we're seeing a demand of, in the case of 2021, of 38 million bikes, same as I just said, but we're seeing orders actual orders for 52 million. 52. 62% growth is what everybody wants, but the industry can only deliver 10. So you can see the quick mismatch that we have in the business. We're far off from each other. And unless the industry identifies a way to be able to service those needs, we're going to continue to have a mismatch. And as I've said to people, many of the component suppliers, if you believe this is a bubble, and you believe the sales experience that we had in 2020 is a bubble, it will be a self-fulfilling prophecy unless you increase your capacity. It will be a bubble because we won't be able to service the demand needs that we have now. And we won't be able to refill the inventory. We will be in a worse situation. So what can we learn? What can we learn from this? We can learn for sure that without inventory within the channel, this industry would have been crushed. We would have been crushed. And I'm going to take you through why that's important. Second thing is we are in an ecosystem, and that ecosystem is dependent on everyone else. So there are 238 items on a bike. If one of them is late, one factory decides that they don't want to increase capacity, we're not aligned, and we're not going to see the growth that we need. Pretty simple. Wholesale and retail channels proved that they are necessary to service the customer needs and to supply the market. So, and I say that as a lot of us talk about e-commerce, M2C, B2C, all of these other things. We are a perfect example of what happens and why there's a need to have channels and what they all do. We were lucky, too. E-bikes saved the day. E-bikes were a good thing for us. And now, as I said, it's essential for everybody to look and to increase capacity because whatever demand we don't supply today, it's a lost sale. That guy is walking into a store, he wants to buy a bike, and if he doesn't buy a bike, he's going to buy a pair of tennis shoes or a tennis racket. He's going to buy something else. So we need to serve him. And that's an important piece as well. So, and as I showed you, it's going to take years to recover at the current pace. Years. So just a couple of things. I said, you know, in this there were some winners and losers, or winners and people who didn't win as well, right? So the winners from the retail side, so if you take a look at the channels, so from the retailer side, the omni-channel retailer that had multiple brands, he was a winner. He bought from anybody. He sold everywhere. He had brick and mortar. He had retail sales. He did good. From the wholesaler side, the big, large economies of scale businesses did good. They had good leverage over the suppliers. They did really well. From the assembler side, lots large-scale assemblers that were dealing with just a few companies that were located in Asia, those guys did really well, and they still are doing really well. From the component maker side, vertical manufacturing, not dependent on subcontractors, not worried about the raw material supply. They were set, and they've done amazingly well. And where were the lost opportunities? Single channel operators with limited customers. So if you're selling only over the internet and you're a single brand and that's your only channel and you're trying to chase down components for bikes everywhere in the world, definitely challenged. And from the wholesaler side, a lot of the small brands have really had a challenge trying to get components. From the assembler side, small capacities servicing a whole range of different customers. They too are having some issues now. And from the component side, legacy businesses that are really satisfied with their current operations. They didn't have or don't have the desire to scale. So anyway, it's a great opportunity. The industry is in a great state. This crisis has changed a lot of consumer behavior, and it's likely that it's going to stick. And the pandemic pulled forward for all of us, compressing years of projected growth just into a few months. And we've got to retain that. So The business outlook, some of you may have seen this before. The outlook for the industry through 2030 is an increase of 43%. 43%. And I showed you the previous numbers showed an increase through 2030 of roughly about 35%. So at the pace that I had the big matrix on, we couldn't even meet these numbers without increases in capacity and the ability to deliver. So we're forecasting, and the industry's looking at a significant gain. And I want to share with everybody why we believe this and why you have to believe it. If you're a supplier or you're an assembler, why is it? You know, Bob, tell me why. So there's a lot of reasons, right? So we're seeing changing behavior, okay? And that changing behavior is not going to snap back. People are going to still stay at home. They're going to work from home. And they're going to continue to use bikes as a way of recreating and a way of getting away from the family. No doubt that's going to continue. As I mentioned, bicycles are essential. Governments around the world realized that bicycles are an essential part of living. And we all have to step back and say, and celebrate that particular factor, because that is fantastic. We're suddenly getting the respect and the recognition that we earned in this business, and we should cherish that. Government incentive programs. There are amazing programs today. You guys may have followed it, even in the US. We're looking at an incentive program potentially of $1,500 for people buying e-bikes. There are these kinds of schemes throughout the world. Throughout the world, whether it's in the UK, whether it's in Italy, whether it's in Germany, whether it's in France, governments are behind it. There's clean air, there's environment, there's climate change, all of these things, there's congestion. People want bikes, and people are buying bikes, and they're engaged, and they're interested, and governments love it. So infrastructure, you're starting to see a lot of infrastructure being built for bikes. And so around the world, you're seeing countries like France ripping out streets to put in protected bike lanes. In Germany, in Holland, all of these countries are doing an amazing job trying to build infrastructure. Infrastructure drives people riding. Infrastructure drives people riding. So we're seeing a lot of that. Safety investments, we're starting to see a lot of investments in ensuring safety. And whether it's B2V, bicycle to vehicle communications, whether it's helmets, whether it's safety lights, whether it's a variety of different things that are improving the safety of the product and the product's getting safer. The social rewards, there's a lot, as we were saying before. Social benefits of engaging with other people and being together, and that's not going to go away. It's a wonderful thing to have. And the last point, which is really important, is transportation. People are using bikes for transportation. And there's a growing segment of bikes that are being used for transportation around the developed world, and that's not going to change. That's something that's here to stay. So where are the industry opportunities? I'm just going to give you a few things. You know, there's a gold mine today in the bike business. There really is. And all we have to invest in it. We have to invest. So e-bikes for sport, recreation, performance, and transportation, they're happening. They're happening, and they're happening big. So where are the other opportunities? We need to retain these pandemic riders. We saw a huge surge in sales. Let's identify ways we can keep them. And C, much like Jack doesn't like hearing me say this, but we need to convert indoor riders to outdoor riders. Look how many people are riding indoors on Peloton or some of these other brands. We need to convert them. They're going to, once the pandemic is over, they're primed to go outside and enjoy outside cycling. So we got to convert them. Children's bike sales have been amazing. And what has happened in the pandemic is parents historically were very concerned about the safety of their kids. And they didn't want them to ride, they didn't want them to do things. And so the family was together, everybody's in one household, and the kids are sucking up Wi-Fi, playing videos, and watching and playing video games. And the parents are saying, hey, I've got a Zoom meeting, I've got all these meetings. And so they go out, they bought the kids a bike, the kids went out, they enjoyed it, they came back 5 o'clock, bruised, scraped, smile, big smile on their face, and the parents suddenly were inspired, and they're confident. And we're seeing a lot more of that, that parents have a high degree of confidence in kids and the kids' bikes, and we're going to see that continue to grow. And kids' bikes do build brand loyalty. Consumers desperately need parts and service. So these are opportunities, and I had mentioned to a few of you, today, the entire inventory of parts and components is being drained because there's no way to be able to service the bikes that are out there. Huge opportunity. Proactively support these global incentive programs. They're going to help to fuel this business. They're going to continue to fuel this business. Focus on speed and efficiency. Coming decade is likely to usher more changes and increased usage. Cycling is becoming more socially acceptable, safe, personal, convenient, a reliant source of personal mobility, and very experiential. And we're all adjusting to change, but this is gonna stay. So people out there want to take advantage of this coming wave of opportunity with investments, with the passion and the agility and the responsiveness that we need. So the future is now. And industry leaders, all of you here, and suppliers, you need a sense of urgency and a mandate to believe and invest. It's critical to develop strategies that will enable the business to meet these growing consumer needs now and in the future. So there's billions of dollars to be made and profits to those who believe and invest in a healthier and a stronger business. And my last point is invest. You're either at the table or you're on the menu, guys. If you're on the menu, believe me, there are other countries, there are other companies that will certainly have you for lunch. So anyway, that's my presentation. I want to thank all of you for listening and taking the time. And I'm available. My email is here, and happy to answer any questions at a later time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob, for the inspiring talk. Let's make history together. 接下来呢，我们要进入的主
We are moving on to our next session in the afternoon, New Business Model, looking into market-driven innovation. Here, we have Mr. Jeff Chen, Chief Sales and Marketing Officer of Joy Group. Joy Group specializes in the manufacturing of hubs, a key bicycle component. Recently, they are also developing technology in parts for e-bike transmission systems. Let's welcome Mr. Jeff Chen.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jeff Chen, and I'm working in Joy Industrial company for over 18 years now. And today I'm going to share a bit of our experiences and thought on our company and also the marketing and also the industrial growth. And then lastly would be something to do with COVID-19. So in order to get my speech better, so I'm going to use Mandarin for now. 谢谢。我们
Joy Group is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. The products we produce are bicycle rims and hubs. A hub functions similarly to an engine in a car. So this is a technically challenging part to manufacture. So we focus on the development of action and occlusal technologies for bicycles and continues to demonstrate innovative breakthroughs every year. Joy Industrial Corporation is a global organization. We have 3 factories in mainland China, and the headquarters is here in Taiwan. We also have 2 subsidiaries. These are marketing bases. They are on the east coast of the United States and Europe, respectively. Our company continues to expand our product line. Starting in 2020, we started to promote the manufacturing of carbon fiber bike wheels. This is to further strengthen our technical capability and challenge more diverse fields. In the past 5 years, we have indeed faced many turning points in our development. For example, the rise of electric bikes actually started 10 years ago, but in the recent 5 years, we saw a lot of changes in the regulations, patents, and the riding experience related to electric bikes. So every year, we launch new technological and service innovation for e-bikes. We also provide cargo bike products. This cargo bike product is favored by customers out there on the market. So here we have invested hugely to the manufacturing of hubs for cargo bikes. We know that the bicycle market continues to change. For example, bike sharing programs have been very popular in both China and Taiwan. So we can see that the bicycle industry continues to innovate itself. I am very happy that making bicycle is not just a job for me. It also makes me very happy. We also explore new possibilities in marketing and sponsorship. So, for example, we sponsor European professional teams and ask these cyclists to use MIT products, that is made in Taiwan products. This assures us that our products meet their high standard, and this also makes our brand more international. Because of the sponsorship program, we are able to get feedback from the cyclists and team. These feedback can feed into our next generation product design and development. So I think these feedback are very important and helpful for us in continue to develop our brand. We also pay great attention to the development of young people here in Taiwan. Our chairman and team have always supported Taiwanese national players. So, for example, mountain bikes. People like Johnson San or Wu Wei, they are well-known cyclists here in Taiwan, and we want to help them to have more experiences and can perform better professionally. From the perspective of talent training, we urgently need industry-university cooperation because we do feel that there's a scarcity of talent in the biking industry here in Taiwan. In recent years, we have visited many universities to help develop talents in this area. We want them to understand that the biking industry is not a declining industry. We want them to have a correct understanding of this industry and also hope that they can enjoy the joy of riding, of cycling. So during the past couple of years, we also have been restructuring our organization so that we can provide more resources and opportunities for new talents. In addition to talent, we also need a lot of energy in innovative design. And the need for innovative design comes from different market needs. For example, we have developed a new type of bike called gravel bike. And I think in the future, you would have e-gravel bike or e-road bike. So these are products that are based on existing modules, but we add electricity elements into it. Looking into the future market, we can imagine that the entire bicycle industry will be inseparable from electricity and electrification. And this also means that we have to pay more attention to the lifespan and the reliability of components. We want to make sure that we supply quality components and parts, but at the same time, we need to continue to innovate, to pursue changes so that we continue to work towards excellence. Recently, e-commerce platforms surge in the European and the United States markets. Therefore, we are able to engage more directly with customers and consumers. We have established a lot of social media accounts, and during the past 3 years, we can see consumers from many different parts of the world engage with us on these social media platforms. For Joy Industrial Corporation, we are looking into the questions or needs proposed by these different consumers and convert them into SOPs or Q&As in order to optimize our product production. So I think listening to consumers' voice, listening to their needs, is also important for B2B producers like us. These comments can be very minor things or can be major problems. No matter which type it is, they are all very important for us to improve ourselves. We are on Facebook and Instagram. Because of these social media accounts, more and more consumers know about us. They know that we are working 24/7 and 7 days a week. So this also means that we need a very strong team to support our social media engagement. I think this is something that's very important for us to do in order to improve our services. And then talking about e-commerce, starting from this year, there are many consumers who never understood cycling before. They have probably never cycled before, but because of the e-commerce platforms, they have started to pay attention to what bicycles are. And when they come to these e-commerce platforms, we need to provide them with information, photos, so that they understand what they actually need. So e-commerce is not just about providing an additional channel for sales. It's not about making a deal. It is also about how to engage with your consumers.
So that's the aspect we also need to pay attention to. And for now, in addition to innovation, what else do? We continue to improve our company culture, our organizational structure, so that the entire team can face the latest challenges and have a very clear purpose. So because of the impact of COVID-19, we started introducing the new culture, so it is possible that we change how we do things 2 or 3 times a year. It could be even often. We reorganize our company. So we have a clear goal in building our organization to be stronger. So our management team, our executive team know very clearly what plans we need to carry out. So what I also want to share with you is that starting from January 2020, there had been a huge impact. And in fact, we are like everyone else. We have experienced many problems. Orders were canceled or postponed, or there was a huge growth of orders, capacity insufficiency, shipping issues for the buyers, higher cost, and a lack of workforce, which are common issues in the industry. So starting from 2020, we have been through all these waves and challenges. What should we do? I wouldn't say we have done anything special, but we slowed down a little bit. We make our foundation more solid because we're not looking at it just right now. We are looking into the future. So indeed, COVID-19 has brought about a huge impact. But for us, when it comes to manufacturing, we started to introduce more automation. We started the use of cloud. So that's what we are doing right now, collect more data to the cloud. And that's what we started in the second half of 2020. We will continue with that. How about, well, in 2021, what will we do? I have asked these questions to my friends in the industry, manufacturers, parts suppliers, and media, and no one really knows what's going to happen because there are so many variables. So our view is that we continue with our current goal. We are going to finish what we started. And we should leverage different industry platforms so that we know what the best business model is. I think that's my 2 cents. And these are my comments in this time of pandemic. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chen. Now, we're moving on to the next session. New Mindset, Rethinking Sales Channels. We will have Jacqueline, President of Armor Manufacturing. Well, Armor Manufacturing is a well-known trader in this industry. Their presence is in 80 countries in 5 continents. They provide all kinds of services. Let's welcome Mr. Jacqueline. Dear friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon.
I'd like to sincerely wish my buddy Jeff, who just did the video, the stock market will have a huge boost after the broadcasting. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can somebody help me with my PowerPoint? 可以有人帮我放那个我的影片。
Will someone help me with my slides?
Mr. Margevicius for the warm up. 我们有一个我们产业的巨人，然后在我第一次做 live 的。
I think he was a giant in this industry. So following him in my presentation, which is my first presentation in the industry, I feel really humble right now, and I think I have a lot to learn. Okay, is it possible to get my slides ready?
So here we are. Disruption, 就是重整或是打乱 changes the way of mobility, how to transport from point A to B, how to maintain minimum social life within safety standards, how to capture maximum information now that factory visits are nearly not feasible for product managers. What do we do? So I agree with the article issued by author Denise Leon from Harvard Business Review, the topic being pandemic is rewriting the rules of retail. It's saying that retailers need to reimagine their baseline requirement, creating the wow factor experience to appeal and stop expecting business to return to norm. There are many articles talk about the new norm. Mr. Margevicius certainly gave us a broad overview, so save me from the data driving. So I'd like to discuss a little bit more about some reality check and some of my findings and my observations on behalf of Armor. So far before this, the fierce battle against e-commerce players, such as from Central South America, Mercado Libre, and from Southeast Asia, there's Shopee. There's from North America, there's Shopify. There's Alibaba, Taobao, of course, Amazon, eBay. Challenges such as COVID-19 pandemic and economic crisis have now accelerated at staggering speed. At this point, I guess many of us in the audience are from manufacturing. You're busy, overwhelmed to deal with the current demand. Where is innovation? What's the future? You know what? I need to take care of my customers. I need to fulfill the orders on the production line. I'm having trouble retaining workforce, counting on the return population from the holidays. You know, it happens a lot across the strait here. So what do we do at this point? You may be trying to digest, come to wrap your head around knowing, for example, right before the holidays, my shipping freight and my deal to Long Beach Port was from $2,900 to $8,500. Our shipment speedboat to Italy, take a guess, $11,000. $11,000. If you weren't shipping microchips or something, e-bikes or products with at least carbon fiber components, how can you imagine? And you can imagine as a trader, such as Armor, man, we have a much smaller gap to get by or survive. So allow me to look at, if I may, probably take a look at some examples online. There are some examples we can look at. There's direct-to-consumer business models, namely e-bikes like Red Power. They have the goal is to make sure to service you from distance. It's like in person, that type of mentality by offering customized services such as door-to-door delivery, adjustment, of course, within safety measures. There's maintenance, and of course, there's delivery through company van or through contract third-party delivery companies. There's direct-to-consumer brands such as Guardian Bikes. They're very, very clear about the brand strategy. All they sell is kids' bikes based on safety. And how do you ensure the accuracy of body measuring? They have claimed to develop a very accurate survey to fill out. So the percentage of error is close to 0.5%. And easy to assembly is another key. Is it truly easy to assemble for online companies? How well can they accomplish that? 95% assembled, pre-boxed, or 99%? And of course, there's indoor cycling. Swift, Peloton, examples, the stock market reflected the boom and unexpected sales. The number being 11,000 subscribers at the same time when Swift ran a campaign. So that tells you how much people, in that case in North America, desire to fitness and stay fit, exercise. Branding is also another very important thing for many brands or moving forward. I like to give an example of a local brand, also a buddy, Josh Han. I use his product. It's not available in Taiwan, but I somehow got a hand of a sample. Turn bicycles, cargo use, a vehicle for family and friends. You can haul your 2 extra kids in the back, or you can haul a beer case or a tent. Purpose-driven utility vehicle. And for retailers, how do you recreate the face-to-face, personable experience? You got to turn up a notch to the wow factor. Can you imagine bringing your bike into a full-service retail environment and have your fitness buddy, your equipment for a bath, and that bath is a real bath, cleans everything. What if you have a state-of-art, near to professional level, a trail park within reach, a 3-minute walk with your staff is assisting you, who knows and passionate about riding. You can instantly get a thrill from that experience. And that is the driven force, incentive, motivation, if you will, to overcome that fear of, not wearing a mask or have to not keeping enough social distance, the risk, and show up at the retail, a physical store. Be creative and think about what drives traffic to your location. So the question is, we have a very obvious situation. Michael Porter's 5 powers theory, right? Who has the power at this very moment? We talk about the previous speakers, talk about increased demand, be brave and invest, right? To not lose the opportunity to video games, to running, to different industry. Let's capture the moment while we can. How long will the record phenomenon last? The graphical display I really liked from that bike with all the numbers. That's a very remarkable image to me. How, as armor, as a trader, how do I hedge future currency? I see a lot of people nodding their heads. What do we do from this point forward? Forecast out in 200, 300, 400 days. I got my customers to say, hey, based on the relationship we've had, we are almost 50 years, by the way. Let's agree to the delivery dates, and hopefully 3, 4, 5 months prior to shipping day, let's talk about pricing. You might be laughing, but that's what it takes to capture the moment, to work together as a team. It's not difficult. It's a very difficult time. Many European presidents declare war. I'm not a baby boomer, but I can imagine this is a war against virus, right? It's a different type of condition, if I may say that. So, logistics, delivery, and price. I think I mentioned about delivery already, price, logistics. If I cannot get FOB Taiwan, I need to get it from FOB Mars, hopefully. Talk to Elon Musk. He'll help you out. Where can I get source from? If I cannot get Shimano derailleurs, can I get XYZ? Is there a model year? How do we do? Go back to logistics. So FOB Vietnam is it's an option. FOB Cambodia, FOB obviously, hopefully as much as Taiwan, right? There's Portuguese source, right? There's a hub there. Now European, Eastern Europe, a very important source for e-bikes as well. So it's an open-ended question for everyone, and I'm very fortunate because my teacher did a presentation before me, and it's really ultimate the goal. How do we secure the supply chain for the future? So thank you, everyone. That's my speech.
谢谢总经理的演讲，谢谢。
Thank you very much, Mr. Jacqueline. We are now going to take a 20-minute break. Once again, I would like to remind you that on site we are showing you the product that has won the D&I Award of 2021 Taipei Cycle Show, and also innovative new product chosen by TaiSpo. So we would like to welcome you to take a look at these products. This year, Taipei Cycle and TaiSpo join hands and launch an online exhibition this year. This online exhibition was officially opened yesterday and will run until the 31st of March. In this online exhibition, we are creating a platform for online community engagement and provide global buyers immersive experiences. In this online exhibition, we also provide functions such as 360-degree view of products and matchmaking meeting reservations. You are welcome to scan the QR code on the screen to join our online exhibition. Our afternoon session will be concluded with a Q&A session. We are going to take your questions through Slido. You can scan the QR code on the screen to access the Slido page to raise your questions. Our moderator will consolidate these questions and propose them to our speakers. Please be back in 20 minutes. Thank you.
Innovation, especially new markets. As we see that electrification of bicycles is just in the start. And the bicycle adherence already has changed a lot, and the acceptance of the people about different bicycle shapes is already ongoing. That means bicycle more look like small motorcycles. They are getting more massive. They show much more surface than before. People accept it. And this is actually just a start for a totally new transportation world.
The most refreshing product that I saw was actually the most unusual and probably the weirdest idea. You couldn't help but smile when you looked at it. It was just fresh. What we want to see is that guy's or girl's second product, because they're a creative thinker.
Advanced thinking and innovation. This is one of the key that I look for in the D&I awards. As products get entered, the first and foremost is they should be pushing the boundaries of the industry.
透过简单、聪明的方式去解决困难的问题，对，这个是我看中的一部分。另一部分的话是在产品最后成品的细节处理上，怎么去做一个很好的收尾，这也是在这个产品本身吸不吸引人的另一个重点。
科技业也是台湾很重要的一个产业，自行车也是。这两个台湾重要的产业如何能够携手合作？怎么样把我们在科技产业方面关于电脑相关的一些设备啊，怎么样运用在这个脚踏车的产业上？这对台湾来讲都是一个加分的效果，就是1+1应该可以大于2。
One of the common features we see this year is that we have a system design, system thinking. Whereas before it's more of a product, this year we see a lot of the entries start thinking about a system, how they work with each other. So this is a good thing for the industry.
I think what COVID-19 is going to affect is everyone's understanding of how hard it is to make things. So I think it will change the focus on manufacturability, because you can't design things right now that are hard to make because you won't get them for a year. So designing things that are manufacturable is going to become more important.
I think that's also a very good platform for established companies or for newcomers and startups that have some innovation to showcase and to get the word out to the general public or to the industry. Normally they would not be so obviously known or discovered. So with this award, they really get into the spotlight and get the awareness they deserve. And that also, I think, really triggers innovation in general in the bike industry.
各位来宾，我们接下来的议程即将开始，在这边邀请。
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The second part of our afternoon session will begin soon. Please also remember to switch your cell phone to silent mode.
And please remember to switch your mobile phones to silent mode. Thank you. 各位来宾，欢迎大家回到。
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The next session will focus on new service, insights on service innovation. For this session, we are honored to have Mr. Anbeek, CEO of Accell Group. Accell Group is the leader in the European e-bike market. It is also the second largest company in Europe in bicycle parts. Let's welcome Mr. Anbeek.
I hope you're all safe and healthy in these challenging times, both personally and business-wise. And I'm very happy to address you via this video and introduce Accell Group to you. Accell Group, headquartered in the Netherlands, is the European market leader in e-bikes and second largest wholesaler in bicycle parts and accessories in Europe, with numerous leading brands under one roof, all built by pioneers for whom the best was simply not good enough. We continue to embody the spirit of those family businesses up to this day. And we are the inventor of the modern e-bike in 2004 and the e-mountain bike in 2010. Well-known bicycle brands in our portfolio include Hi-Bike, our e-performance brand, family brands like Winora and Batavus, sport brands like Ghost, Lapierre and Koga, and our iconic UK brand Rally, our innovative e-bike brand Sparta, and last but not least cargo brands Baboo and Carcon. And XLC is our exclusive private brand for bicycle parts and accessories. Accell Group employs approximately 3,400 bike lovers across 18 countries. Our bikes, bicycle parts and accessories are sold to dealers and consumers in more than 80 countries. And Accell Group has been listed on the Amsterdam Stock Exchange in the small cap index. Last year, we have developed our purpose. Cycling moves the world forward. We strongly believe that people have the power to change the world for the better. And they will do this partly through cycling, because cycling inspires many of us every day to achieve more with our muscle power and innovative potential. In the end, this propels us forward. Cycling helps to give people a better life, simply because more exercise makes everyone happier, fitter, and results in a better performance all day long. Cycling clears your head and gives you room to laugh and enjoy your day. And cycling is bigger than the cyclist who smiles at his neighbor and really connects with his neighborhood. It is by far the most sustainable mode of transportation. And it helps to create livable towns and cities without traffic jams, noise, and air pollution. And I would love to invite you to take a look at our purpose movie. All people in the video are Accell employees. I'm Anbeek, CEO of Accell Group. At Accell, we believe people have the power to change the world for the better.
Hey, Tom.
Then let's move forward together.
That's why we build personalized bikes. So everybody can ride like a pro and have fun.
Bikes bring you to places you've never been before.
And finally get some
We push the limits of technology for every cyclist and every single bike. We simply go the extra mile.
Let's do another one then.
Ciao, Harold.
Moving forward is in our DNA. Always has been, always will be, for many generations to come.
C'est pas Nico qui vient de passer?
Eh, Papa Lapierre, c'est presque aussi bien qu'un vélo français.
Started by two pioneers. We keep surprising the world with new innovations.
Prove it!
We created the first e-bike, first e-mountain bike on the TTS system, and now we have P-Light for maximum visibility.
A bike is by far the most sustainable mode of transportation, 10 times more sustainable than cars.
So that we can breathe a sigh of relief as we lower the CO2 emissions.
We are part of the solution, with 1 million new bikes on the road each year.
When we make one part more sustainable, like bike packs and saddles,
Just imagine the impact we make.
creating more livable cities.
And lovable cities where we're living. Thank you, fellow colleagues, dealers, partners and riders, for being part of this cycling movement. We make the world a better place. I guess we're trying to say, bicycles are here to stay. Move the letter forward! You want to see something cool?
Oh, wow, is that you?
I told you, huh?
And our purpose was more true than ever. Despite the fact that COVID-19 is an impressive pandemic virus, it has also proved itself to be a very positive blessing in disguise for the bike industry. We all know that the bike in general is part of the solution to many city and societal problems like congestion, pollution, and lack of physical health across the globe. In this context, COVID-19 has put the bike definitively on the political agenda as a very interesting alternative to public transport and as an alternative for many forms of physical exercise because of lockdown policies in various countries. Cycling sales and usage have increased dramatically as a consequence. The three main structural growth drivers of the bike market are electrification, investments in bicycle infrastructure to enable safe cycling, and last but not least, government subsidies or fiscal stimulation to promote cycling usage by making it more affordable. The EU Green Deal policy is accelerating and reinforcing this. Many European governments have announced investments in bicycle infrastructure and in subsidies or fiscal stimulation. COVID-19 has accelerated these EU and local government investments hugely across Europe. In Italy, in the United Kingdom, in France, basically everywhere. Against this background, the global market growth forecast for bikes in general and e-bikes in particular for 2030 looks very positive, but certainly not unrealistic. To meet the growing demand in the coming years, we need component suppliers to invest in extra capacity to produce more critical components and products as soon as possible. And this needs more than ever before to be based on a long-term commitment and partnership between branded bike manufacturers and component suppliers. Accell Group is known, but also keen to continue to develop and establish strategic long-term partnerships with key component and technology suppliers. Only mutual long-term commitment and win-win partnerships can deliver the right quality of innovation and product availability to jointly outperform the market and win market share. Accell and its brands look forward to work with you to profit enormously from these very green and favorable market circumstances and trends. Keep safe and healthy, and I look forward to meeting and seeing you soon live again. Thank you very much.
To Mr. Anbeek, thank you. 接下来的主题演讲呢是骑出新产业，在这个主题当中呢，
We'll move on to the next topic, that is new industry beyond the sharing economy. Our presenter is Mark Lin, founder and CEO of MOOVO. MOOVO is the best alternative for short commute in cities. They want to build cities into low-carbon, environmental, and a beautiful place. That's what their vision is. Let's welcome Mr. Mark Lin from MOOVO. Good afternoon. I am Mark Lin, founder of MOOVO. I want to thank the organizer to give me this opportunity to come to you to speak to many predecessors in the industry. And I need to confess that I am the most junior in this room when it comes to the bicycle industry, because I studied EE and I did something about investments. I look at the industry from the capital perspective. And today, what I want to share with you is MOOVO's vision and my experiences in share economy. I think I'm speaking in front of a lot of experts, so please bear with me. When it comes to mobility or transportation, e-bike or e-scooter, is something I came to have some contact with when I was in Boston with the MIT's Media Lab. I met Michael, who's a professor in the lab. So this project, well, the previous version was Copenhagen wheel. It is later called Green Wheel. I think you know that Copenhagen wheel means that PMS, power management system, or motor, and so on, can all be combined into one wheel. And in 2008 or 2009, this was a cutting-edge innovation. And I think a similar idea or similar product was launched by a famous brand in Taiwan. They have their own e-bike using the same idea. So I did some study in the Media Lab back then. That was how I joined the industry in a way. That was my first encounter with micromobility or mobility. Then I focused my career on investments. I look at this industry from the capital perspective. I then became more interested in the industry. I want to have more hands-on experience. So I went to India. And there was a Jio in India. That was a new telco company from 3 years. Its users had grown to more than 300 million people. And it used the traditional telco concept, and it also expand its campaign to a different idea. So that was in India, and scooters were very popular. So Jio worked with many IoT partners. So that was my second encounter with mobility through working with Jio in India. Then I joined Mobike. Mobike was a share bike brand back then. It was top one or the top two brand. And many of the people from the bike industry have their own stereotypes about share bike, because some people think that was a huge bubble. Some people look down upon that business model. I will come back to this. So Mobike was a share bike model that was a roller coaster ride, but I still believe that there was a huge social value that can be generated from share bike. That's why I started MOOVO. Based on this shared economy concept, I want to build a more comprehensive commercial brand that combines hardware, software, and IoT. Again, I will come back to this later. Now, let's look at the idea of shared economy, because in this session, I want to talk about innovation for share bike. So if you're a Go player, you know what game review is. After a game is played, you will review what had happened in that game. And I think we can do some game review of a share bike. So when you think of share bike, this is probably the first image in your mind. That's the grave, or that's the graveyard of share bike. At its peaks, the bikes were sufficient. But what is lacking was the color, because all the colors were used. We didn't have enough colors to paint all the bikes. Why did it happen? Well, we have to look at the capital side. These are 3 operators of the top 3 share bikes. Back in 2015, that was the start. By 2016, the industry was healthy enough. It was developing. Everybody could make money. But in 2017, something happened. Within 3 quarters, $2 billion rushed into the industry, because by the end of 2016, people started to feel that it was a good business. So by 2017, all of a sudden, $2 billion rushed into the market, and it crushed the original economy model. So Mobile then acquired Mobike at $3 billion. And there were a few times for other companies to sold their business. They didn't, and now they're on the bridge of bankruptcy. So who are these investors, and what did they see? Some people think that they were really stupid, because many people already believe that the share bike was a bubble. But it's not true, because these investors, in fact, are very well known. You can see that there are TPG, Sequoia, Vertex, or Foxconn. So in nature, share bike is like a rental business. Rental business can grow in scale and become profitable. So the investors at the time saw the foundation of the business was good, and it was also a very strategic business. Why is that? Because it is a good approach to obtain user traffic and data. Now, traffic is the most expensive thing on any online platform. And if you want to get users' data, and plus you have to attract the users, that's a lot of cost. And maybe in the past you need to acquire a user with $13. Now it's as high as $20. So at that time, share bike was a new way to obtain these user data. So they provide so many new contact with the users. That's why there was the exponential growth. And also in 2016 and 17, the technology of IoT had matured, so that each bike was not only a bike, it was a piece of consumer electronics. By looking at the behavior of the bike, well, of course, you can install some sensors on the bike. You know what's happening, and you can move these bikes around. So these, plus the big data, the business grew so fast. That's why capital flux in, but it came in too fast. And the government didn't have enough time to manage this industry. So all the businesses were trying to increase the number of their bikes, and the government couldn't manage that. So in the end, the industry crashed. And in the communist leadership, we will see that they couldn't find a way to manage such a big number of shared bikes. So that's why there was a bubble. But for an industry to develop, there has to be a certain degree of bubble. Bubble means a dream. If there's a dream, then investors are willing to invest and drive the innovation in the industry. And in the share micro mobility, I think it drives the industry of the two-wheelers. What kind of innovation? Well, the old product now becomes a service.
Two-wheelers now are not just a means of transportation, but a piece of consumer electronics. Let me give you another example. In the four-wheeler world, I think some of you probably have seen this graph before. Here you can see Tesla, the lesson that Tesla has taught us. Tesla become one of the top 15 brands starting from 2013, and you can see that throughout the years, it continues to move up the rank. Traditional automakers trail behind. And in 2016, you can see, just like what I said, IoT softwares and hardwares matured. You can also have over-the-air real-time updates of in-car onboard systems. So in 2018, 2019, you could see Tesla quickly caught up with all of the other automakers. And right now, Tesla has a market cap that is larger than all of the 9 remaining automakers in total. So it now has a market cap of $700 billion US. Even half of it, $300 billion of it. I think with this number, if we can have the kind of market cap here in the two-wheeler industry, this would represent a huge amount of opportunities for all the two-wheeler companies. So with Tesla's example, we can see that Tesla is producing a Tesla car as if it's a piece of smartphone. So a Tesla car is like a smartphone sitting on 4 wheels. In the field of micromobility, we are going to replicate this kind of revolution and disruption. In the next decade, I am sure that micromobility industry will replicate the kind of disruption that Tesla has created for the four-wheeler world. Here you can see there are so many micromobility players in the market. In the coming decade, we're going to see many disruptions to this industry. And after the dust settles, capital markets are regaining confidence in the micromobility sector because investors are realizing that micromobility itself is still a very healthy sector. For example, Uber is now investing in Lime, a scooter rental firm. Dafan company here in Taiwan, and Xinban Electronics. They started as an electronics company, but they are now also investing in micromobility solutions. So what we are seeing now is that there is a tremendous transformation in the two-wheeler industry and supply chain. And I believe that we are on the way to replicate Tesla's revolution in the four-wheeler world. And because of this belief, MOOVO would like to build our expertise based on the lessons learned in Bikeshare 1.0. So we are going to expand this rental model of Bikeshare. There's going to be short-term rental, long-term rental, and even subscription-based rental model that we are going to launch in the market. In our solution, we not only provide hardwares, we also have special software and IoT solutions that can differentiate our service. So in our rental and sharing platform, we are fully modularized to ensure maximum scalability. So e-bike is going to be the majority of our hardware. Of course, there are going to be some other e-mopeds or e-scooters that are offered in our platform. We modularize all these platforms. This means that local operators of bike share can very quickly work with us and create a platform that's suitable for their local market. This is our first product. This is already launched in more than 20 cities in the world. Here you can see the hub, the motor, all of the consolidation of electronic technologies and parts. We are now running in 20 cities in the world. Our largest market now is in Spain, and we are now also working with New Taipei City and Changhua County here in Taiwan. We have released more than 30,000 e-bikes and bikes as part of our platform and have obtained more than 1 million users on our platform. We are also going to continue to develop new types of micromobility vehicles. This is a picture from Changhua County. We are now working with MIT Media Lab to provide advanced micromobility sharing solution in Changhua County. This will replace the current U-Bike and become the bike sharing program of Changhua City. With this program, we are providing smart bicycles and e-bikes. We also have Bluetooth road sensor attached to this program. We are also experimenting new types of micromobility vehicles. For example, this is a 3-wheel micromobility vehicle. This can become a cargo bike or a personal transporter. Here you can see that it can automatically sense the surrounding environment because it comes with LiDAR. So this can become an autonomous micromobility vehicle that provides, for example, cargo services or personal transportation services. And this kind of vehicle is not just a transportation means, it is also a data point. Here you can see the kind of data we are receiving in Milan. Every point is a bicycle. Each bicycle is sending us a tremendous amount of data. These data help us at the operator side to optimize our service. This also helps us to identify the hot points during peak times so that we can dispatch these e-bikes more efficiently. Users can also make use of these data. When users ride our bikes and arrive at a specific place, we can push notification to them to inform them of some of the information or sales news of local shops. So bikes no longer remain as a means of transportation. It becomes a piece of consumer electronics device. Excuse me, can you play this for me? This is from Boston, a project that we are developing with MIT Media Lab. This talks about dynamic scheduling of different forms of transportation. This kind of dynamic scheduling can make sure that we maximize all of the resources, transportation resources we have in a given city. So every bicycle can become a data capture point. And with this kind of dynamic scheduling, we can provide users new choices and options in the combination of transportation means that they can choose in achieving more optimal mobility experiences. Finally, to conclude, the micromobility industry, including e-bikes and the cycling industry, I think everybody is very excited because in the past we've been talking about additions. How do we put together all the parts and assemble them into a bicycle? But if every part each part of every part in a bicycle can become a thinking machine, then we are not only talking about addition. We will be talking about multiplication. Bob also mentioned in his presentation that you make history or you become history. So I would like to also quote this as part of my conclusion, and let's make history together. Thank you.
谢谢林创办人的精彩分享。
Thank you very much, Mr. Mark Lin. We are moving on to the last session of today. This presentation will be made by Ms. Annick Roetynck from European Light Electric Vehicle Association, LEVA-EU.
Annick Roetynck, I'm the manager of LEVA-EU, and I am very pleased to be able to present this presentation. First of all, I would like to greet the Taiwanese government. I would also like to greet TAITRA, the organizer, as well as Mr. Chi Hong Liu, the Deputy Director General of the Bureau of Foreign Trade of Ministry of Economic Affairs, and Mr. Simon Wang, Executive Vice President of the Taiwan External Trade Development Council. I will talk to you in the next 15 to 20 minutes about the effect of European e-bike dumping measures on Taiwan. First of all, I would like to very, very briefly introduce our organization, LEVA-EU. We are the only trade association in Europe to work exclusively for light electric vehicles. We are a members association, and we help our members to understand the rules and regulations that are governing light electric vehicles. At the same time, with the European authorities, we are trying to negotiate better rules and regulations for LEV businesses. And we are also promoting light electric vehicles in Europe for the benefit of sustainable mobility. We currently have around 50 members, not only in European member states, but also outside Europe, for instance, in Taiwan, but also in China, Korea, the UK, and so on. Sorry. We have a large variety of members. Some of them are producing vehicles, either electric bicycles, cargo bicycles, electric motorcycles, or vehicles with 3 or 4 wheels. Some of them are producing components, and others are offering services. We are a non-profit association. Our association depends completely on membership fees. We are not being subsidized by any government authorities. And the team consists of, apart from me, of Bram Rotir, who is our technical director, Dennis, who is our Chinese liaison, and Dan van Dieren is our policy officer. We have a close cooperation with the academic and research world. We have a very, very extended network worldwide. And we closely cooperate with LEVA in the United States, which is a separate association, but we have close contact. I'm really sorry about this. Right. When I say light electric vehicles, it's important to understand the scope of our association. And in fact, we cover all light electric vehicles which are in Regulation 168/2013. This is the technical regulation for light vehicles. In this regulation are electric bikes with more than 250 watts and or more than 25 kilometers, also speed pedelecs, electric mopeds and scooters, motorcycles, electric 3 and 4 wheels. But apart from that, we also deal with light electric vehicles which are excluded from Regulation 168/2013, such as electric bicycles with pedal assistance 250 watt, 25 kilometers an hour, self-balancing vehicles, e-scooters, monowheels, and so on. The main issues that we as an association are currently dealing with is, first of all, there is a review going on of Regulation 168/2013, as well as of the Machinery Directive for the benefit of light electric vehicles. This is really a very, very important issue because the current technical rules are not well adapted to light electric vehicles. And we hope that this review will result in much better and much more accurate rules. We also are active in standardization. We actively participate in Working Group 5 on electric bikes in TC333, that's European standardization, and in Working Group 9, where we are developing a new standard for electric cargo cycles. We are also on the International Electrical Committee in TC125 for personal e-transporters and in ISO TC149. Another important issue is the proposal which the Commission has recently issued for batteries, which will have a major impact on the whole light electric vehicle business. And apart from that, we are also working on the review of the driving license directive and obviously also on trade and dumping issues. Before effectively talking about these trade and dumping issues, I would like to give you a brief overview of the light electric vehicle market in Europe. Although we do not have a lot of very detailed statistics, because most of the vehicles do not have to be registered, and in that case it's quite difficult to get accurate statistics. We estimate the biggest group of vehicles today is electric cycles, pedal assistance up to 250 watt. We estimate that in 2020, at least 4 million of these have been sold. Why do I say at least? It may be a low estimate because the COVID crisis has given sales of these vehicles an extra boost. People were reluctant to use public transport. They also wanted to be in open air and do some extra exercise, and found that electric bikes were an ideal way of doing that. And therefore, sales were just exploding, so much so that for the moment there is an issue because the components cannot be supplied on time. Another booming market is electric cargo cycles. There we only have a number for Germany in 2019, where it was estimated already at 55,000. And this is a booming market because a lot of European cities are closing off their city centers for combustion engine vans and trucks. And electric cargo cycles turn out to be ideal for last mile delivery. Speed pedelecs, these are electric bicycles up to 45 kilometers an hour. The biggest market is Belgium, but also Germany and the Netherlands, as you can see there. We believe that they represent today 50% of all electric moped sales in Europe, because speed pedelecs from a technical point of view in Europe are classified as electric mopeds. Then there's e-scooters, electric monowheels, e-hoverboards, self-balancing vehicles. The only figure we have there is for France in 2019, when 600,000 pieces were imported. We believe that despite the fact that we have no data available, that there were several millions being sold in Europe today, both for private use and for sharing systems. Electric mopeds, we do have concrete numbers thanks to the registrations. That was 58,500 last year. And electric mopeds already have a 21% share in total moped market. But as I explained, half of these electric mopeds are expected to be speed pedelecs. Registrations of electric motorcycles is still quite limited, 18,620 last year. They have 2.1% share in the total market, but it was only thanks to electric motorcycles that this market has continued to grow last year. And then if you take all light electric vehicles together, we estimate that at least 10 million have been sold last year. And just to give you an idea of the size of that market, in 2020 in Europe, only 500,000 battery electric cars have been sold. So as I explained, we also deal with trade and dumping issues. And to give you a bit of background information, in October 2017, EBMA lodged a dumping complaint against import of electric bicycles from China into the EU. The Commission thereupon initiated proceedings, and in November 2017, LEVA-EU decided to assist a collective of 21 European importers in their fight against the complaint, because LEVA believed that the complaint was not aimed at protecting the European industry against dumping, but it was rather aimed at reducing competition. All through 2018, LEVA assisted the collective in their fight against the complaint. And although we unfortunately did not manage to win the whole case, we did win the case against retroactive collection of provisional duties, which saved a lot of companies large amounts of money. In January 2019, the Commission found that there was dumping, only based on the fact that the profitability of the European industry was 0.9% too low. And as a result of that, they imposed measures. So since 2019 up to today, we are informing and assisting companies on how they can legally produce e-bikes since the introduction of the measures. Now, how can you do that when you are assembling e-bikes in the European Union? You have to make sure that your production cannot be considered as circumventing the measures against China. And for that reason, you must make sure that no more than 59% of the total value of the parts in your bike consist of Chinese parts. With that, however, there is no anti-circumvention law against electric bikes in place yet. There's only anti-circumvention legislation for conventional bicycles, but it is clear that customs are trying to find proof to go ahead with legislation because they are checking very intensely and sometimes in a very aggressive manner. They do checks in Europe to see if there's not any SKD, CKD imports going on. They also check on potential anti-circumvention measures of conventional bicycle parts. And as you know, they also check in other countries. It happened in Taiwan, where they are checking on transshipments. Now, how can you continue to assemble legally in Europe? First of all, you could try to use assembly capacity of EU producers who have a Commission exemption for anti-circumvention measures against bicycle parts. The problem there is that most, if not all, capacity is used. There is no capacity available, certainly not since the explosion of sales due to COVID, due to the COVID crisis. Alternatively, you could set up a new assembly operation with end-use authorization, which would allow you to import essential bicycle parts free of duty for the assembly of electric bicycles. This process is, however, extremely difficult. And another difficulty in this is that you still have to use no more than 59% Chinese parts, which is very difficult because the supply is insufficient, especially of batteries and motors. Now, obviously, part of the assembly from China has also moved to other countries, such as Taiwan, but also to Thailand. And these are, together, for instance, with India, these are countries with so-called non-preferential origin. So normal import duties apply to imports of electric bicycles from Taiwan to Europe. However, the rules for this non-preferential origin have been changed, and that happened in October 2020, where the Commission decided, what you can read here, to enhance its support to economic operators and customs authorities regarding the determination of the EU of the non-preferential origin of e-bikes imported in the EU. The non-preferential origin, non-binding list rule for e-bikes classified under headings 87, 1160 has indeed been aligned on the one for bicycles. Now, this might sound complicated, but I will try to explain what it means. So this change executed by the European Commission has been introduced at the explicit request of the European Bicycle Manufacturers Association and has brought about a major change in the rules of origin for Taiwan, because before the change, it was possible to produce an electric bicycle and it would have origin if it was made up of any products which did not come under the HS heading of the electric bicycle itself. Well, that was just the case. None of the components of electric bicycles come under the heading for electric bicycles itself. So, in fact, you could actually use components from wherever you wanted to produce the electric bicycle in Taiwan. Or another possibility was to use no more than, you had to use 55% local content. Obviously, the first rule was the easiest one to apply. What has the Commission now changed? They say, well, you can produce an electric bicycle, but it will not have any more Taiwanese origin if the components under headings 8501 for motors, 8507 for batteries, and 8714 parts and accessories of motorcycles, e-cycles, and conventional cycles, if these are not coming from Taiwan. So all those parts now have to come from Taiwan, or you could use the second rule, which is 45% Taiwanese origin. So it has become a lot more difficult to produce an electric bike with Taiwanese origin. So this is just, as I explained, the first rule, change of heading, has become unusable. So you have to use normally the rule of 45% local content. However, if you find that you were unable to achieve that, you are allowed to apply what is called the residual rule. And the residual rule means that the country in which the major portion of the materials originate becomes the country of origin. I will make it clearer with this example. So you have an electric bike where there are parts from different countries. As you can see, the content from Taiwan is only 37.71%. So the 45% Taiwanese content has not been achieved. In this instance, you can apply the residual rule, and you can, in that case, Japan becomes the originating country for this electric bicycle. If you are using this rule, you have to, of course, ensure that you do not end up with origin being China, because if that is the case, your electric bicycle will be considered to be dumped if you bring it to Europe. The question is there circumvention in Taiwan of the Chinese measures? Well, if you look at the exports of electric bicycles from Taiwan to the European Union, you can see that obviously they have increased because there has been assembly from Taiwan being moved to Taiwan after the imposition of measures. As a result, for instance, in 2019, imports to Europe were 80% higher than in 2018. However, if there would be circumvention, then you would expect the average value of that import to be a lot lower, because you would expect dumped imports to move from China to Taiwan. But what we see is that average value has actually increased with almost 5.5%. So all this really leaves the question to what extent there is circumvention going on, or there is dumping going on. Circumvention through China and dumping in circumvention in Taiwan and dumping in China. I hope this has given you a better insight into the situation with regards to dumping measures and the part that Taiwan can play. In conclusion, I would like to state that Taiwan can play quite an important role because, as I said, assemblers in Europe are forever looking for suppliers outside China. And on the other hand, there is obviously also possibilities to import complete electric bicycles from Taiwan to the European Union. I thank you for your interest and your attention, and please, if you have any further questions, do not hesitate to contact me. You can see my contact details here on this slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. 谢谢来自于 LEVA-EU 的
Thank you very much. Now we are ready to move on to our Q&A session. During this session, we are very honored to have a moderator to work with us to moderate today's Q&A session, and we are going to use Slido to take your questions. You can raise questions or you can like other people's questions so that we know what questions to put forward to our speakers in the Q&A session. I would like to now invite the moderator for this session, Mr. Zhu Jinzhou, Raim Zhu from Business Weekly Group. We would like to now welcome Mr. Robert Margevicius, Executive Vice President of Specialized Bicycles Components, to the stage to participate in this Q&A session. Mr. Jack Lin, President of Armor Manufacturing Corp, and Mr. Mark Lin, Founder and CEO of MOOVO. I would like to now give the floor to Mr. Zhu. I think to begin with, we have to start from something that Robert has mentioned, and that is we need to create and make history together. However, what marks the beginning of this piece of history is COVID-19. COVID-19 has created a huge impact to our industry, and I think it has created an impact to your life as well. We need to put on our masks, right? Okay. So, first of all, I would like to ask our three speakers on stage to share with us your observation on how COVID-19 has changed everybody's life. I think every one of you will have different perspectives. Because, for example, Mark will, because your company is running in a lot of European countries, so you probably have different perspectives. So first question to all three of you, what kind of impact COVID-19 has created to people's lives, and how do we respond to these changes? Let's start with Robert.
You can hear me? I think that there are actually 5 dimensions that we've seen that are changing behaviors. And one is, as I was mentioning, changing lifestyles. So people are spending much more time at home, whether they're at work or leisure, and the boundaries of the world around consumers continues to shrink. So people are willing to spend more in family activities that are close to home, and they're investing more in themselves. And the second point is discovering. So craving an expanded relief from isolation of stress, consumers have embraced freedom and simplicity. So consumer spending that was originally directed externally on clothes or travel or dining out, entertainment, drove consumers now to invest in products that deliver personal enjoyment and engagement. The third thing is purchasing decisions. So the pandemic has driven people to preserve wealth rather than profess wealth. So let me repeat that people now are preserving wealth instead of professing wealth. And buying habits are changing. We talked some about the internet and how internet is changing things, but buying habits, consumers today have a brand preference, but they're not necessarily brand loyal. So let me repeat that again. So consumers have a brand preference, but they're not necessarily brand loyal. They research and shop online, and when they do go to a brick and mortar retail location, they are buyers. So they're walking in and they want to buy something, and they are not necessarily brand loyal. And from the last one is behavior. And they say there are times when people are time rich and cash poor. And there are times when people are cash poor and time rich. And today, we're in an era where the pandemic has driven people to say, show me your best value rather than show me your best. So we're in an era where people are time rich. So those are some changing behaviors that I see in the marketplace today. So I'll pass it on to you, Jack.
Okay, thanks. Well, I'm very fortunate. We live on the island where Bob Ashley, you've been here since January, so has enjoyed the freedom and how people are very friendly. And certainly I feel sympathetic about my friends and people I know, relatives overseas, where they're going through. I feel terrible. Nonetheless, being Taipei, being Taiwan, we were more cautious about.
Check， 你可以用中文讲，直接用中文讲就好。
就是我们住在台湾。
So right now we live in Taiwan, and sometimes we sympathize with those consumers who are living overseas. But at the same time, it sometimes is difficult for us to understand the changes in their purchasing behavior. Can you share with us what kind of changes have you observed in the market? I have contact with markets across the world, across the 5 continents of the world, and I think one thing I have observed is that a lot of families still value exercises and physical activities, but their purchasing behavior have changed. Mark, what about you? I would like to talk about the European market. I think during the past year, there are 2 very obvious trends that I have observed. First of all, because we are a commercial rental platform, we provide total solutions that include hardware and software solutions. So there are 2 major scenarios for application. First one is for commute, so bike share programs for commuters. And the second scenario is for delivery, so or last mile delivery. A lot of last mile delivery in the European or North American markets are done by bicycles. During the past year, we could see that in March and April, when there were a lot of lockdowns, of course, the demands for our service dropped significantly. But I think it was a little bit like the stock market last year, right? So at the very beginning, there was a very significant dip. But then people started to avoid mass transportation. So now people choose PMD, personal mobility device. So bicycles become one of their favorite choices. And that is why during the past year, actually the later half of the year, we saw the demand for bike shares quickly came back. And actually there was a 25 to 30% growth compared to the year before. And for delivery, for example, food delivery or micro logistics, we could also see the growth here in the demand for bicycles because the baseline was pretty low to start it with. And that was why the growth was very evident and very significant. So I think in the future, micromobility is going to become a very big trend in European and North American markets. Here in Taiwan, a lot of people use scooters to serve as your personal mobility device, but in the European and American markets, there's no such a choice. So bicycle is going to become their personal mobility devices. Okay, thank you very much. So personal mobility device and the last mile delivery, these are the two main driving force for the growth of needs for bicycles in the European markets. Okay, we have talked about e-bikes in this afternoon session. I think a lot of people are saying that the next decade, the next golden decade of the bicycle industry is going to be created by e-bikes. However, this also means that a lot of manufacturers need to go through some major transformation. I would like to ask Robert and Jack to touch upon this question. So from the perspective of supply chain or product supply or channel operation, when we are running a company that transforms to the coming of e-bikes, what kind of change do companies need to do?
So I think e-bike boom will attract companies from outside the bicycle industry. In fact, you will hear more and more investments come from, for example, IT world. And they're pouring in. The resource will be amazing. So I personally applaud this situation. For example, Rat Power just secured $150 million funding to fuel growth. The new round include big-time investors such as Counterpoint Global, Morgan Stanley that is, Fidelity Management and Research Company, the RISE Fund, the global impact investment platform managed by TPG, and funds and accounts advised by T. Rowe Price Associates. Previous backers, Durable Capital Partners, and Vulcan Capital also participated. There'll be continued investment from public, private, and government sectors. And there's traditional power sports, motorsports brands like Harley-Davidson, Yamaha, KTM, etc., etc. Some are already in the business, and some will crank up the volume to a certain extent. And Taiwan has successfully positioned itself as the leading authority in the global electric bike marketplace. 谢谢.
Yeah, so e-bike opportunities. So globally, e-bikes are projected to grow by more than 3 times the current level over the next 10 years. There are some amazing opportunities for everyone in the market. And I'll just say at Specialized, we call them the smile machine. And we call them the smile machine because whenever someone rides one, they always come back with a big smile, and generally they're ready to buy. So, but from the e-bike opportunity, I'm going to, again, segment this into different areas from the product side. So first, the e-bike business is dependent on the drive system. And currently, the drive systems are coming from Europe, Japan, and to some degree from China. So from my perspective, it's critical for Taiwan to invest in innovation and technology to lead in the drivetrain business. Without a high-quality performance drive system, Taiwan will be relegated to one of many geographic assembly locations. So that's important. Second, I think the business will become more and more technology dependent on IoT. So investing in technology for zero maintenance, lightweight, high comfort, extended battery range, quick charging systems, safe operations, secure locking, rich, valuable data that has performance, health, destination, environmental impact, etc., will be welcomed by consumers, and they will pay a premium for all of those things. And I'm an advocate, so I was mentioning this at one of the breaks, I'm an advocate of the secondary market for refurbished e-bikes. People are paying big money for e-bikes with currently very little residual value. So if there is a robust secondary market, people will pay more and they'll become committed cyclists if they know they can trade in or trade up an e-bike. And I think that market has tremendous opportunities. Repairs and upkeep will be necessary, whether it's drivetrain, battery, or other components, ensuring the e-bike is working at optimal levels. So repairs and service will continue to be important. And currently e-bikes come in various configurations, whether it's transportation, utility, leisure, sport, performance, and kids bikes. And we have to really embrace each of those individual sections. And my last point is, younger generation will invest in e-bikes. And there's a lot of reasons for it, but most of all, it suits their lifestyle. It signals their commitment to zero emissions, climate change, and a clean environment. So it has everywhere to go, and it's all upside.
Okay, thank you. 那 Jack 刚才Robert 特别提。
So to you, Jack, Robert was saying Taiwan has a role to play, especially in assembling and in the geopolitical landscape. It has a role to play. On this issue, do you have the same or different comment? I think I touched upon this a little. I think in the e-bike industry, Taiwan is leading. Taiwan has the authority. So this is the word I will use, authority. It's leading, it's deciding the direction of future R&D in the industry. Taiwan has a great connection with the market. So for businesses, what should they do? Or take your company, for example. What do you do to prepare? Our company is a traditional bicycle company. We have a history of 50 years. About 5 years ago, we started to prepare ourselves because we were very familiar with mechanical elements, but we were not familiar with the electrical elements. So we bought and we sold, but now our team knows there is a motor, battery, controller, a connector, and so on. These are important components. So we need to learn these, and we need to continue to work with other partners in the industry. Okay, thank you very much. Let's talk about shared economy now. We touched upon the development and the boom of shared economy. So Mark, you talk about this, but can you share with us a little bit more? Are there some commercial opportunities? Because it seems that we're mostly talking about bike share or share a bike. It's more on the personal side? How about on the commercial side? What is the trend you saw? And also to Robert, internationally, are there good cases of shared economy or bike share, and how should Taiwan catch up with the trend? Okay, I think share is a very broad word. It has a broad definition, and I saw some question here because some people ask, are we sharing new resources or resources which have already been invested? Now, on micro mobility, when we talk about share, in fact, we're referring to rental. It's a rental business. It is just that in the micro mobility, there is super short rental, and long rental. And there's good opportunity for rental business because this is an era of e-bike. And Bob said that the entire system will become more and more complicated. Against this background, an e-bike is like a piece of consumer electronics. You can't just purchase it and bring home and use it. In the past, bicycle channels are like traders. We bought a certain number, we sold a certain number. But in the future, all of these channels need to have the capacity to provide service because the product you sell right now is almost like a consumer electronics. So IoT, software, and so on require real-time updates. So in the future, e-bike channels will need to cultivate the capacity to service. And also, the entire system has become more complicated than before. Now, among the younger generation, they tend to rent instead of buy. Because if they buy a product, they need to pay, for example, a subscription fee to purchase a service, and therefore they tend to prefer rental over buying. So it's not only in the personal context, because it can be used for delivery. So now this model is even outsourced. An operator is hired to operate the entire rental model and IoT. So the delivery business doesn't have to operate these e-bikes. They can outsource it. So I think for me, e-bike is like a micro rental business. And in Europe or in the US, I think rental of e-bikes will be great business. Thank you, Robert.
And I love the sharing economy. I think when it was initially initiated with OFO and MOBIKE, I think that one thing to compliment you on your explanation of what happened with the share bike business was one of the challenges was the e-bike, the e-sharing, the share businesses came in, and you can either ask permission or beg forgiveness. And a lot of the challenges that happen in the share bike business is they didn't ask permission. They just went out and they tried to seek forgiveness. And that created a black eye. I think a lot of the governments that stepped back and really didn't like what was happening from that community. But at the end of the day, it's a wonderful thing. And I'll just tell you my thoughts on it, that there's definitely a movement towards the sharing economy. And particularly as digital natives, which I'm not, but you are, realize that they really don't need to own anything. And they can just share. And I see the value proposition in the model, not necessarily in the product, but rather in the data platform that provides value information on product and product usage. So for the share bike company, they can earn, I see, advertising dollars from local businesses, passing on where a convenience store is or a coffee shop that people frequent. And I also think that the success of these operations is dependent on building multiple revenue streams that support the platform. And whether it's complementary services, like, for example, Airbnb works on cleaning companies, rental agents, selling consumer data to owners and businesses that complement their business model. And I think that the share bike community needs to find out where those different revenue sources are. And from the bike side, I'd like to see, this is my dream, Mark, I'd like to see a share community where members get together for group share rides or share dating events. Think about that. You with your girlfriend, you go for a share date, or restaurant discounts, or even shared weddings. Think about that, share bike weddings, share bike city tours, or other activities that really keep this community engaged, involved, and constantly connected. And I think the opportunities are really wonderful to build that community and put it together and really create a strong bond between people. So anyway, that's my perspective on it.
OK， 一个非常美好的。
This is a very wonderful vision and a very wonderful world. Okay, now we can respond to some of the questions on Slido. So my question for Mark. Well, in fact, there are two questions for you.
Agility challenge in Taiwan.
Okay. Robert. Sorry. Okay, here's to Robert. What's your comments of the bike supply chain agility challenge in Taiwan? Yeah. So the bike chain agility, so I break things in the bike supply chain into components that have high barriers to entries and ones that have low barriers to entry. And as far as agility is concerned, ones that have very low barriers to entry and are easily substitutable, the industry has a tremendous amount of agility to move and maneuver within that area. But areas where there are very high barriers to entry, high cost capital investments, those are more challenging. And right now, as an industry, what we're facing is those components that are high cost of entry. They're the ones where we don't have the ability and the agility to, and those are the ones where we need to grow and we need to have additional investments to scale so that we can match the needs. So I hope that answered the question.
Okay, second question. How do you manage the risk of double booking?
I don't have an answer for that. I really don't have an answer for that. I think it's supplier by supplier, and everyone's going to have a different perspective. We have situations today where some of the component suppliers, big component suppliers, are saying you can't cancel within 150 days or 200 days. So different suppliers are adopting to it in different ways. And I think it's really up to each supplier to try and manage that themselves in how they manage and run their business.
Okay. 那 Jack 对于 double booking 这件事，你们公司成立50年了。
Jack, how about you about double booking? Because your company is 50 years old. I know this question was coming to me. Oh boy. I don't really have, well, a tactic move in the Sun Tzu's war book, maybe a good strategy. So you mean you have some inside story, but you don't want to tell? But you are making us very curious. Go back to Sun Tzu, a military strategist. Maybe there are so many countries, and I can't really disclose what's happening. I'm just saying that it could be one of the strategies. So you're implying that, well, double booking is a serious problem right now. Is that what you're implying? Well, I don't know you very well, so you're laughing, but I don't know what you mean by that. Okay, anyway, next question.
The chaos of supply chain among the bike assembly factories. Is there other perspective to save lead time let who has Shimano has bike?
Jack, do you want to take that on?
Sensei, please.
Or Robert?
Is there other perspectives? Right now, we are gated by various different suppliers. Whether it's, as I had mentioned, most of the gating is by products that have very high barriers, high barriers to entry and require a lot of capital investment. And whether it's drivetrains, or whether it's brakes, or whether it's forks, all of those products have limitations and boundaries. And those, at this moment, are what we're bound by. So those are areas that we're currently working to try and increase the output by improving the efficiency, improving the throughput. Many of those makers are investing in additional ability to assemble or do sub-assemblies. They're also working 24/7, and we all know that, redlining, working overtime, and that's really how we're working it right now, and it's going to continue. And I think I showed everyone the lead times. That's basically where we're at. We're just moving at a pace that we can, based on those components that high barriers to entry and high capital investments.
Okay, Jack 有补充吗？
Anything else from Jack? Okay. The next question, I think, is for Mark. So I think you also saw this question here. So there are two types of sharing economy. The first type is where you share existing resources. The other type is to share new resources. Which type for you that you think is better? And how will they develop? If we look at micromobility, I personally think sharing new resources will be a better model. We need new resources into micromobility sharing economy because we need new resources to make sure that all of the customers have good experiences. This is because in order to provide consistent experience, we need to make sure that the hardware and the software, that is the IoT and software solution we are providing in the bike sharing platform, can align with each other. So if you have existing bicycles that are very varied and try to connect them with the software solution, I don't think it will create very consistent solutions. And I think the future trend is that people will buy less, but rent more. So we need total solutions in the micromobility market, so that these end users will have very consistent experiences, and the operators of bike sharing programs can have a turnkey solution from us. And I think this will create a very huge business opportunity. In other areas, such as, if you look at Airbnb, I think Airbnb is running on a hybrid model now. Most of the spaces that you can see on Airbnb are existing resources, but Airbnb itself is also engaged in real estate development. They are buying real estates and develop them into Airbnb rooms. If you look at Airbnb and in the field of hospitality, I think the threshold of buying a new real estate is pretty high. So I don't think the platform will be willing to own this type of assets. And I think users of Airbnb are looking for experiences that are unique to platform-owned real estates, meaning that they expect that the kind of experience they're going to have in different rooms in different cities are going to vary. Uber. At the very beginning, Uber is about sharing existing resources as well. However, they ran into some challenges in terms of regulation. There will be safety issues, and existing taxi operators also protest against Uber. So you could see that Uber right now is regulated by, taxi regulations or car rental regulations. So I think in some sectors, it's better to share existing resources such as Airbnb, but there are some other sectors where you need to share new resources. I want to move on to the next question. This is for Robert.
E-bike market, and what's the next challenge?
Well, right now, we're seeing high penetration of e-bikes, and frankly, whatever we can provide and deliver to the market is selling through. So we're not really seeing any real barriers currently to the e-bike market. We're just seeing barriers as they relate to supply. And the challenges that I see in e-bikes are there's a handful. First of all, what we have to really be careful about is the safety of the product and the safe use of the product. Right now, we're seeing people who are tampering, they're increasing speeds, they're going at high speed rates, which is really compromising what the intent and the spirit of e-bikes are. So I think that's one. Number two, we just have to be really thoughtful about the usage and who's using it and how they're using it. One of the freedoms that makes e-bikes so successful right now is there aren't a lot of regulations and regulatory provisions. So it's not like an automobile where we have to register it, where there's vehicle registration. You don't need a driver's license in most instances. You don't need a helmet. There are some safety precautions on the vehicles, but all of those things result in an opportunity that is inclusive instead of exclusive, which automobiles and other vehicles are. And we have to work really hard to protect that. And we have to work hard to protect that by ensuring the safety of the product, investing in infrastructure, and ensuring that the product itself is safe and that we provide safe guidance for people who are riding it. So the obstacles that I see are potentially regulatory and safety related. And I just think that we need to just provide more people, get more experience, penetrate the market, and service the market.
OK， 那这边刚好也有朋友问到。
We have another question here that asks about the after-sales services for e-bikes in European and North American countries. So you talked about maintenance, you talk about repairmen. Who provides these services in the European and American markets? Maybe Robert can share with us on your perspective. How do you maintain the technical skills of these maintenance service providers? What kind of payment or fee structure can they have?
There's a lot of opportunities here. It's much like an automobile, and many of the retailers, as long as they establish a relationship with the customer and the product comes in on a regular basis for maintenance or for serviceability, I think that opportunity is really big, and that's where we're seeing a lot of brick and mortar retailers continuing to provide service and continuing to add value to the product. And we see a lot of mobile service operators. Many of them, as we were saying, I think that Jack was saying, there's Rad Power. There are people that are actually going to homes or going to business locations and servicing e-bikes and and making sure they're maintained. And I think, lastly, probably the most important thing is to make sure that we have the service parts available for what the product is. And you can imagine if someone's on an e-bike and they're out on a nice leisurely ride, but something happens and they take it back to a retailer or they contact whoever is the provider of the vehicle and they can't get a replacement part or they can't have it fixed, they're quite disappointed. And we can potentially lose customers by the inability to service them and the inability to provide maintenance, inability to provide repair parts. So that I just carve that out as really a challenge that we have, and ensuring whoever the e-bike makers are, that they have the resources, the tools, and they also have a vehicle or a way for people to service the bikes that they have purchased from them.
OK， 好，那我想这边还。
Thank you. There's another question that has received a lot of likes. So this is from a former employee of Specialized. So maybe he has worked with you, Robert. So he's saying that the domestic cycling market here in Taiwan is very small. So other than supplying bicycles, I think he thinks that the cycling environment here in Taiwan is less mature and less developed compared to European countries. So the question is directed to Mark. How do we change Taiwanese people's preference over scooters? I think it's very difficult to change that habit within a short period of time because scooters is just everywhere here in Taiwan. But this is a very interesting question. We do need to think about a possibility in the future where maybe e-bikes will be able to partially replace people's dependence on scooters. But I think it is still a very daunting challenge because this is such a deep-rooted habit here in Taiwan. And a lot of the infrastructure and environment here in Taiwan are very friendly to scooters and scooter users. And that is why, in Europe, they don't have this choice over scooters. And that is why e-bike can soar so quickly in the European countries. There is a demand, a transportation demand that needs to be satisfied, and e-bike satisfies that demand in the European countries. In Taiwan, that demand is probably already satisfied by scooters. But in European countries, it's a different story. In Taiwan, we have 50cc scooters. This is, particularly for short-term commuting. But they don't have such a choice in European countries. Taiwan is considered a developed market. This means that people have a lot of money to pay for, transportation devices such as bicycles and scooters. And it's very rare to see a developed country in the world that has such a high penetration of scooter like Taiwan. And I think it's very difficult to change that. Okay, so this is probably a very disappointing answer for our audience. Well, because of the time constraint, I need to ask our three speakers to conclude now. I would like to ask every one of you to conclude this afternoon's session with one sentence. Okay? All of our three distinguished speakers. One sentence to conclude this afternoon's discussion. Let's start with Mark. I think I am going to quote from Bob. Make history or become history. I think looking at the development and the prospect of e-bike, of two-wheeler industry, we're really at a turning point.
You're lying. Sorry. Okay, Jack.
Jack?
People's attention that companies are adapting competitive strategies by investing more to develop new generation technologies for production of bicycles and also e-bikes. So using digital and social media advertisement to make consumers aware of the new product, it's a good way to consider, to launch the market. So, and AI will definitely connect to our traditional way of cycling. So think about cycling as a lifestyle. Yeah, 大概是这个.
Okay, 好，谢谢 Robert.
Okay, I'm gonna also say something that I said in my presentation. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu, guys. And just realize that, and that is important. So thank you, everybody.
OK， 好，我们谢谢大家今天的参与。
Thank you very much for your participation today. This concludes our forum. Once again, we would like to thank our 3 speakers on stage. Let's make history together. Let's all play a role in the making of history. Thank you very much, Mr. Zhu, and all of our 3 speakers. I would like to invite all 4 of our distinguished speakers to stay on the stage to have a group photo.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of today's forum. Thank you very much for your participation. Before you leave, please complete the survey before you don't have a chance to do that. And please also return the simultaneous interpretation equipment back to the registration to get your ID back. Thank you very much, and best wishes to all of you.
For memory. Okay. Yeah. At least 1,000.